Hello, all. Good morning once again. Thank you all for joining this session. So, in this series, this is the fourth session. So, like always, what did we discuss through our last three sessions, right? So, we had three sessions. So, what did we discuss? So, we discussed basically about Vedas. We discussed what is the foundation knowledge concerning the Vedas, right? So, what's the source of Vedas? Why Vedas are called as Apurishaya? Why they are called as Anadi? What is the meaning of Nishvashitam and why Vedas are called as the Nishvashitam? So, explaining all these, we had gathered around 23 questions, I think. So, maybe in the last session slides, I had listed that down. So please go through those questions, and if you have find some doubts, you can revisit those sessions, and still you find a few questions, and you can always text me or in the WhatsApp or here in the sessions we can discuss through them, right? So these are the things, the foundation knowledge about the Vedas we had discussed earlier. So I will not go through those questions again, right? So we will focus on our next part, that is the Vedanta, right? So this is what we want to focus on. So Vedanta, we understood that it is part of the Vedas, right? Which is coming at the end sections of the Vedas. And these Vedanta, they deal with the instructions of Paramatma on returning back to him. So that is one way that we understood. We also understood that these instructions contain the knowledge of our existence, our reality, and our true self, like who we are, about our existence and about our reality, right? So, such kind of knowledge is uh, like present in the Vedanta. This is what, in brief, we had understood. Also, in the last session, we discussed few of the things like the challenges and the favorable factors which are concerning the study of Vedanta. So, who can take up this Vedanta and for whom this Vedanta is? You can say it's kind of the qualities or the qualifications. So, we discussed briefly. So, today also we will continue on that, right? So, these favorable factors are the challenges that I am discussing. It is not coming through me, right? So, the sages have identified it, and the sages they have told that at least these certain qualities should be there so that the student or the one who is pursuing this study he should be able to understand those things, right? So what are those qualities or what are those challenges or favorable factors to study Vedanta? So one we discussed is the Brahma Jigyasa, right? So Brahma Jigyasa means you have an inquiry, you have an inquiring mind, and in inquiring mind into nature of our existence itself. So you always try to question about existence. So from where this existence is coming through, why and how, the purpose of this existence. So those kind of questions you should, an inquiring mind should have, right? Right. So here, why it is called as Brahma Jigyasa? It is because the the word Brahma Jigyasa is coming from the word called as Brahman. So right now, understand this. You can equate the Brahman to what you say the Paramatma itself now. So just understand this for now, because when you have an inquiring mind and when you try to understand all those things, eventually you are trying to find some truth, right? So when you are doing some research on the existence, you are trying to find the truth. Actually, the truth is called as Brahman. That let us keep it short for now, but the entire Vedantic studies is concerning about the Brahman itself, but we will go step by step since it's the very beginning. So understand that when we have an inquiring mind into nature of existence, basically you are trying to understand this existence and try to find the truth. The truth itself is Brahman, and once you know that, the jigyasa also concerning regarding Brahman also should come to you, right? What is, like I told that Brahman has to be equated to Paramatma, right? So you have to understand who is Paramatma, what are his attributes, right? Why did he choose to create this creation? So things like that. So the jigyasa concerning not only our existence, because it will lead us to the Paramatma itself, and that's why that nature of Paramatma also we will try to understand, right? So this kind of questioning or inquiring mind should be there in the student or the disciple, they say. Then there should be something called as Vairagya Bhava. So the student or the disciple should have some sort of dispassion towards the worldly affairs. So why they have mentioned there should be some dispassion or Vairagya Bhava? So we will discuss that, right? But understand that we should not be totally engrossed in worldly affairs, because we should have some inquiring mind. When you have an inquiring mind, naturally you are shifting your focus, right, from your current existence. You are shifting your focus and trying to understand something. So for doing that, you should have some dispassion towards your current life, right? So it may sound what you say uncomfortable, but we will go through this process. We will not directly go into Vedantic studies, but we will go through each of these what you call the challenges are the favorable factors, right? So then we will understand more about the Vairagya Bhava. But for now, understand that this is one of the prerequisites, right? Then other thing is we say something called as mumukshutvam. So what is the meaning of this? The meaning is that you have a burning desire to not to be born, or you can say that you have should have a burning desire to get liberated, right? So this is another what you say quality or the factor. So why we should have this, again we will discuss. Then we should have viveka. So viveka is meaning like the discriminating knowledge about what is real and what is unreal. At least some basic things we have to understand about our existence. So we should at least have this knowledge that this existence is created by a higher entity. So without a simple viveka, like everything happened through magic, we cannot say, right? So at least the disciple or a student should understand that there is some higher entity operating this existence. So these are some of the things that our sages have talked about. So there are few other things also, but I took the what you say the crust of it. So at least these things one should have. There is also a discussion that at least one of them, if you have, right, the others will follow anyway. So if you have the Brahma Jigyasa, right, naturally your time and energy will be spent more on that, knowing those things, right? So at least one of them also is suffice. But in general, I have listed the crust of this, right? Now we have to understand why the sages have talked about these qualities, right? So simply they should have uh, directly gone through the studies itself. And also why I am trying to discuss these things is, see, we understood that Vedanta is the instructions of Paramatma on returning back to him, right? So you are studying this because this knowledge is about returning back to Paramatma. Now, if you do not have the jigyasa to know about Paramatma, would you able to return back to him? So if you do not have vairagya on your current life, would you be able to return back to Paramatma? So if you do not have the viveka in understanding what is the real and what is unreal, or understanding that there is an higher entity operating, would you return back to Paramatma? Because Paramatma is the higher entity. So if you do not at least trust that there is a higher entity operating this universe, and it is at least that much viveka is expected, right? So mumukshvatvam. So when you have a desire to reach Paramatma, only then these instructions will make sense, right? So understand why and try to correlate it, right? What is the study that you are trying to know, and what are the qualities, and why these qualities have been mentioned, right? So there is a definite sync, right? So that I hope you understood why these things is pointed out, right? So I hope we are clear. Let me move. So I understand that these qualities make us feel uncomfortable, right? So we want to shy away from knowing or exploring Vedanta. Okay, now we know these things. So why should, so I do not have these qualities and I do not have these uh, favorable factors. So I want to shy away. I don't want to understand about Vedanta. So this kind of doubt may arise. So why should I pursue Vedanta when there is no qualities matching or something like that, right? So why even I choose to discuss this one, right? So see, for any studies, it is okay. It is uncomfortable. We understand that. but it doesn't make sense to skip those things, right? So if we want to know something, we have to have like a strong foundation, right? Like why you want to do it. So without knowing or without understanding the foundation, simply if we are going on to study some uh, text or something is of it doesn't make sense. It is okay, now I am communicating that these are the things that is needed to study this, but when I started I didn't know that these are the prerequisite, right? Only thing is I had an inquiring mind, right? So with that I moved forward, and with that I learned, and with that I understood that okay, this is one of these may maybe one of the qualities, right? So what I'm trying to say is, if you want to know something, you should have a strong desire, you should have a strong motto, you should have a strong foundation, right? So why we are discussing these things? It's okay, we do not have it, or it's okay, we will develop it. So those things will come after, but it is not right to skip those things, right? Even though they are uncomfortable. So I still choose to discuss these things because we want to start on a good foundation, not directly talking through in the air, right? So we should have a strong purpose and also a strong will to continue on these things, right? So that is why um, I also went ahead and tried to share about the qualifications or qualities. Now, since we are passed through understanding what is basic, like what is Vedanta, then what are the qualities that is expected out. So now, in general, we know that Vedanta is the study of our existence. In general, we know that. Now, before I start on, starting about the study itself about Vedanta, so we have to first understand what we already know about the existence, right? So it is always makes sense to at least discuss what we already know about our creation, about our existence, what we already know about our human life, right? So it is in very general, it is very basic things, what we already know. So from what we already know, then we can move ahead to what we want to explore or what we do not know and what we want to know, right? So those things come later, right? So here, so let's understand what we already know about this creation, right? So it's very basic and you might have heard everywhere. So those things we will discuss. So what we know is, we know that Lord Brahma, right? He is the creator of the universe. So we all know that. We know that Lord Vishnu is the preserver of the universe, right? We know Lord Maheshwara is called as the destroyer of the universe. We also know that Lord Vishnu takes various avatars, right? During these various yugas, why he takes avatars? To establish the order, to establish dharma in the what you say, in the creation. Why only Vishnu takes avatars and he wants to establish the order? Because he is the preserver of the universe, right? The one who is taking care of preserving the universe. If there is too much adharma, there is too much destruction, and before time there will be destruction. So those things should not happen, right? So to establish the order at the right moment, when the time is right, Lord will take different avatars to balance what you say, the adharma that is already present, right? So to balance that and to show us all the humans the right path, right? So Lord Vishnu will take those avatars. So we also know about those things. Now you might also have heard, right? So creation and destruction of the worlds are cyclic in nature. So this creation had a beginning. So we also discussed earlier in session. So it had a beginning, and eventually there is a destruction for that. That is caused by Lord Maheshwara, right? So this creation also doesn't is temporary. It doesn't stay forever. So there is what you say. It happens cyclic. There is a cyclic nature of creation and destructions happening, right? So when you say that this is happening, right? So there must be definite time also, right? Just like our lives, the creation also had a beginning in time. The creation also will have definite end in time. So you might have heard the word pralaya, right? So pralaya is basically the dissolution of the universe, or you can say the destruction of the universe, right? So those things also you might have heard. So these things will happen. So during creation, what usually happens is all kinds of animate and inanimate beings will be created. All kinds of what you say, heavens, earth, and further all kinds of worlds, different worlds will be created, right? So these things also we know in general. So we know that there is Indraloka, Brahmaloka, Vaikuntha. So there are so many those heavens, earth, and all other lokas and animate, inanimate beings. Everything will be created during the creation. So this also we know. So in general, we know about these things about our creation, right? Now next is what we already know about our human life, right? So we know that we are all born, right? And we all die. So our what you say, our lifespan is what you say temporary. So we know that all humans and all other animals and all what you say the like how the world and creation has a beginning and end. All the entities that are born also have a beginning, and they also die, right? So we also know that after death, the physical, they say that the physical body only dies and there exists some spiritual entity that still exists, right? So in generally we call that, okay, the physical body has gone. Now the Atma is remaining. So we say that, yes, that's why we say that we don't say in our culture that there is a death. We say that the man has passed away. So passed away, it means that he still exists, but he has passed away from this existence. So he has not vanished, or the death is not like the complete what you say non-existence. So there is some spiritual entity that is still existing, and we know that we call that as an Atman, right? So we also know that this Atma, right, it tries to take up a different physical body, right, and enters this plane of existence again, right? So those things also we know. So the Atma, what happens, it takes through these repeated cycles of birth and death, right? So it will be these things will be happening. These things also we know, right? So the Atman takes births repeatedly and experiences births and deaths. And after some time we also understand and we say that, okay, now we are caught up in this maya of repeated births and deaths. You might have heard the word maya, right? So we get attached to the plane of this existence. The Atma takes the rebirths, and now what has happened, now we are all caught up in this maya. So these things also we know, might have heard it, and we might know also, and we might believe also, right? So these are the things that we already know. What else do we know? We also heard of the concept of karma, right? So it is believed that good karma, good deeds will give us a good or higher births it will give us, and bad karmas or bad deeds will give us to lower births. So understand that it is not only the higher and lower forms of births. It is not that you take birth in here and heavens. It is also the karma is also related to everything that is happening in our life. That also we have to understand. It's not birth and that is a major part of our karmas, but whatever we experience in our life also, good and bad, it also is a product of our karma. So this also we understand, right? That our karma, that is itself what we are experiencing, right? So again, then again, it is said about liberation from repeated births and deaths. So we might have heard about moksha or liberation, right? So we might have talked about, or you might have heard that people talking about like the ultimate goal is to attain liberation and free ourselves from repeated experience of this birth and death, right? So this state is called as the moksha, right? So in general, so these are the things that we already know, right, about our creation. So we discussed about our creation. We also discussed about our human life, right? How birth, death, and how are the karmas, and how are all those things. In general, we know these things, and also few things about moksha and liberation. Also, you might have heard, right? So we already know so many things, right? So what Vedanta tells us more about creation. This is the question you might ask, right? See, we discussed so many things. We already know there are repeated births. We know that we want to get out of it. We know that there is something called moksha. So, few of us may also know what are the different ways in one can attain liberation. So, all those things. I think those things, I kept it simple. In general, what we know. So, definitely, you might also know more about things. But the question is, what Vedanta tells us more about the creation or the human life? why why we have to still go through Vedanta to understand certain things, right? So we already know so many things that we accept. And now, what is there more to be known is the question. Now we have to understand that is Vedanta is not the study just to tell you what it is, right? It is also the study which will tell you why, how, and the purpose of it. So you know that you already know that there is a creation, but do you know why? Why there is creation? You know that there is existence. You know why? Do you know why there is why we are encircled into repeated parts of birth and there's those karmas? Why all these things are happening, right? So why there is creation itself? So it's all like why, how, and all the purpose of all these also we will be discussing in Vedanta. So for example, why there is creation, why the universe has to exist in the first place, right? How universe came into being, right? If Lord Brahma created the universe, then why did he create this universe? So why we have to simply take a birth, die, repeat this cycle, and once we say that yes, we want to get liberated, why these things are existing? So when we understand this why, right, then we will also understand the purpose of it. So when you know that why the creation came into existence, you will then know what is the purpose of creation. When you know why you are taking the birth, you will know what is your purpose of life, right? So Vedanta deals with the why factors also. Why there is creation, how it came into being, what's the purpose of it. So why, how, and all those things also we will know. Now, when we go into further these, so the first thing that we will take up is the Brahma Jigyasa. It is like we equated Brahman to the God or Paramatma, right? So this why factors will be applied to the God itself now. So why Paramatma, why God, right? So with the questions like, so with the Jigyasa, what happened? There are only questions. Now through the study, we will try to get those answers, right? So who is Paramatma, right? And or who is God? What are the nature and characteristics? What are the attributes of Paramatma? We have to understand. Why Paramatma created this universe? We have to understand. Like, what was the need for this creation? We need to understand. Why are the universe being created and destroyed? Right? That we need to understand. What is the create the universe with? Why the Lord has created the universe only with what so both happiness and sorrow you see in this universe. Why the Lord has did not create the universe only with happiness, like everybody can just live in happiness and everything? Understand there is karma, but still, why that way that is designed? It should why can't it just be happiness everywhere, right? So why the world is not in that way? Why there is so much suffering, so much pain in the universe, right? So why everyone is not getting everything they want, right? Why there is no established happiness, right? So why the understand the creation happened, but why it is not happened to everybody's liking? Like why everybody is not can live this life with fullest happiness? Why there is sorrow, disease, death? So these are the things we have to understand. Then how did this creation come into existence? Now, what is this creation composed of? So, what is the essence of this creation, right? So that we have to understand. For example, when we have a pot, right, we know that pot is made up of mud, right? Similarly, the creation, right, what is it composed of? So, what is the substance that is composed of? So, why did Paramatma create the universe having death, sorrow, and disease? This I discussed, right? So, why can't he create with all living, all happy, right, without any disease, everything perfect? Why there is no why we don't see such universe, right? So, about these things we have to understand. Now, further we have to understand how this individual self, right, like how I am different from the Paramatma, or how what is the relationship between us and Paramatma? We have to understand. So, what is the spiritual entity, Atma, that is left after death? We say that there is some spiritual entity that is left, right? That we have to understand. So, this spiritual entity called Atman, how is it different from Paramatma? That's what I just mentioned. So, what is moksha? Why it is called as the highest goal of human birth, right? How to attain moksha? What happens after one attains moksha? Right? Do we take birth after attaining moksha? So, these are the certain things that that a jigyasu or a one who is having an inquiring mind about the Paramatma creation generally wants to get answers to, generally wants to know these things. No, this is not a full-fledged what you say questions, right? So there is no text telling that you have to ask these questions. So this is what you are personally what we want to know. So generally, these kind of questions a jigyasu can have, and these things we have to get the answers and try to get the answers, right? So from the study of Vedanta, right? So so this is what I think today we are almost 12. Okay. So so these things we wanted to discuss in this session. The other couple of things is, do we wish to return to Paramatma? So that is the question. So do we wish to end the cycle of experiencing repeated births and death? So that is the question that we have to ask. So these things when we will ask, when at the end of the entire Vedant course, right? When you understand, then you will know that okay, should I why should one wish to return to Paramatma? So those things and all we will know. So this is in generally